All right, hey everyone, welcome to the Google AI bidding teardown here. I'm going to talk to you about all the different strategies you have inside of Google, all the different ways you can use Google's AI, their machine learning, and their neural networks and everything to maximize the results you get with your campaigns. So let's jump right in really quick. 2-second overview of me. My name's Danny O'Kelly. There's my website, Danny OK, and my smiling face. There's me when I had a little bit more hair, and I'm in Yosemite. Here's me again at a Spartan race, swinging on the monkey bars with the rings, whatever you call them. So enjoy being active, having fun, being outside, and marketing. All right, and now here's one last thing, a little quick plug for me. I also have a blog, a website, dannyok.com. It's easier than Danny O'Kelly because I don't think domains allow apostrophes in them. So dannyok.com, I write stuff up there, and I'm sure I'll probably have this on there later too. That's enough about me. Let's dive into Google's bidding, what that all looks like. So really quick, here's a auction overview page. It's kind of zoomed out a little bit. I had to take a search result for pet sitting and split it into 2 columns, but it's all part of the same piece here. So you can look, let me jump into the next one. So anyways, this is all one giant search results page. You might hear them called SERPs or SERPs. That stands for Search Engine Results Page. This is it. Right at the top, we have the first 4 ads that they've shown. Sometimes Google does 1 ad, 4 ads, 3 ads, no ads potentially. In this case, they showed 4. Some quick definitions. Position 1 is obviously right there. All 4 of those are considered top of page. Right underneath those ads, you're going to see a quick maps listing for some pet sitting near where I was searching from, and then the organic result there. So that 805 Pet Sit Moore Park, that's the very first organic result that they've provided. Pretty low down on the page. Now, in fairness, that same person, the same result also lives in the maps add-in right there at the top. So it goes up a little bit earlier, but really that first organic result comes about a third to half of the way down the page. Moving on, we've scrolled past the rest of the organic results. We're now at the bottom of the page. There were 3 more ads there. So there's 7 ads total that Google is running on this. The important thing to know here is that all of these are considered first page. That'll come in handy later. Just for now, know that this is all the first page. If you were to click on any of those O's in Google, you'd go on to the second page and beyond. In my experience, most people don't really click beyond the second page. If you don't get what you want on the first page, at least for me, my search was wrong. I try searching something else to get what I want. So what this all means is that Google really wants people to advertise. You can be really good at SEO, and that will land you right there in that 805 pet sit position, about a third to half of the way down. Even the 4th place advertiser showed up a lot earlier than the first place SEO organic result. So Google wants people to advertise. If you are looking at Google AI bidding strategies, you already know this. You know that it's powerful. There's high intent when people are searching, and you can capture that intent just by sitting up there in one of those top 4 positions. All right, moving on to conversions. Conversions are how Google basically determines what kind of success action happened. It doesn't matter what a conversion is on its surface. The important thing is that a conversion basically is a point in the customer's journey. Either they clicked on your ad, they browsed your site a bit, maybe they clicked an add to cart button or filled out a form, gave you their email address, or maybe they even checked out on e-commerce and actually slid their card and bought something from you. Any of those things could be considered a conversion event. And really what you want to do is you say, all right, what are all of the different points along my customer's journey that I want them to do. What's the quickest way? They click to the site and they buy a thing. The longer way, they click to the site, they add to cart, they come back later, they decide to come into a physical store, and then they buy something. There's a lot of different journeys that could happen, and it's important to map out what those journeys look like. And those are basically your acquisition funnels. If you have them mapped out, then you can actually look at them and see what things can be improved. And by making any of those improvements, you can really increase your sales and your overall performance. But that's not what we're here to do today. Conversions and setting up conversion actions is something that is very unique to your business, what that journey looks like, and also your website, how that's all set up. If you have someone to answer phone calls, or if you have a checkout button on your site, it's too much for me to go into all the different ways that you could set up conversions. I'm going to trust that if you're at this point, you are capable of setting up conversions, or you know someone who can do that for you. One thing I do want to highlight here is that if you look all the way on the right, maybe I'll mouse over here for you, there's this little include in conversions area. Those two that say yes mean that these are the things that Google's smart bidding strategies will optimize for. All of these that are that say no are just helpful for you to see. You can report them, but you're telling Google, don't worry about these. Now, as of this recording, both of these conversions that have been imported in here, Google treats those equally. So if I say optimize, so the one smart bidding is maximize conversions, Google doesn't care that this conversion pays me $100 and this conversion pays me $5. Google will maximize my conversions, and it might do that by getting me a whole bunch of these lower value conversions. This could also be like a collect email event. That could be a conversion that I set up, which pays me $0. So if I say, give me all the conversions you can, Google can get me a lot more conversions of email addresses than people who want to pull out their credit cards or wallets and buy something. So it's just a thing that has to be paid attention to. It's one of those gotchas. So yeah, Google assumes you want everything included in these conversions columns here. So keep that in mind. You'll have to be strategic about which ones you use. Okay, and then if you're tracking at home or you're trying to set stuff up, you've been playing with it, you'll see these strategies might be disabled to you, and you'll get this error message. To use this bid strategy, set up conversion tracking. It means exactly what it says. Google, at this point, doesn't think you've set up conversion tracking with that little yes included in conversions on your site yet. So you'll have to do that before you really move into Google's AI bidding strategies. All right, so there's quite a few bidding types available here. There's 8 automated strategies and 1 manual strategy. Of those 8 automated strategies, they all use Google's AI, but some of them are smarter than others, and we'll get into that later. The important thing is that for each campaign, you match the bid strategy that you pick and the conversion action that you pair it with to the business objectives that you want. Okay, so this is just a quick overview of all the different options you have with all the different bidding types. Starting from Target CPA at the top. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but I will make this available as a download so you can check it out later and read it. So Target CPA, you see the portfolio strategy is optional, requires that you have a conversion action in there, some extra notes and everything on that. Another one, target search page location. That's the first one here where you don't actually require a conversion action no matter what. Maximize clicks, not necessary to have a conversion action because Google understands what a click is. So anyways, there's just a lot of nuance in here, and I'll dive into each one of these later. Okay, so why use AI? There's a number of reasons why to use Google's AI strategies. I know at first it can sound kind of counterintuitive. I'm giving Google money. Google's telling me, trust me, we're going to spend your money wisely, but there's a very clear misaligned incentive at play. You might think that Google actually just wants you to hand the reins over and let them spend all of your money without any effect. But that's not how, it's not been my experience. When it's set up right, Google's AI strategies are super powerful. They're very effective. They'll take less time to actually manage, so you can get back to either higher level strategy, strategic thinking as a marketer or as a business owner. You're going to get better performance out of them. And the reason for that is that Google can see signals and understand things that are not exposed to us as marketers. Google knows who the people searching are. They know when they're searching. They know what they searched yesterday and a week ago. We don't have those levers to pull as marketers. I can't say, I want to find everyone who searched for this term yesterday or within the last 7 days and who's searching this term now. We just can't do that. It's too complicated to actually manage. But through AI, Google is able to actually ingest all those signals and determine these things. On the right on this slide, you can see all the different automated bidding signals that Google tells us about that they use and they consider for each person as they're searching. And one last thing is Google can actually make per search decisions. These are decisions not really available to manual bidding. So that means that if I go and search that pet sitting right now, Google knows for this specific search and the auction, all the people who are in the auction. And if I was bidding on that term, Google would know, all right, how much do I want to bid for this person? Here he is, he lives here, he's searching at this time of day on this device. These are what the things we think we know about him. Is he a pet owner or not? Let's say they know that I am a pet owner. Let's say they know that I've actually gone to pet sitting sites before. Then they could actually bid higher for me because they know a lot more about me than any marketer who's setting up a campaign on the back end. Also, they can layer in multiple decisions in a way that's just not exposed to us as marketers. So you can go on the back end and say, all right, if you're in this audience, bid up 30%. If you're on a phone, bid it down 15%. If it's this time of day, bid up 10%. But all of those things will stack all at once, and you might get some unintended consequences. Google can consider each of these things and then decide what the best bid to put in is. So, long story short, use AI because it's going to perform better, take less time to manage, and you're basically playing with your arms tied behind your back if you're not doing this. You might be succeeding for some point, but eventually a marketer is going to come in who takes the gloves off and says, Google, yeah, just go for it. And they're going to take off and you'll get left behind if you're not here. All right, one last thing before we dive into all the strategies. I want you to be aware of if you're trying to set up a new campaign, you're following along at home, you're going to need to click this button right here to enable basically the pro mode, select a bid strategy directly. If you don't click that, Google's going to try to say, guide you to the thing that you want to do. So it will, in this case, if I said, I want conversions, it will tell me, oh, maximize conversions. If I checked that, set a target cost per action, which is an optional thing, it'll say, oh, do target CPA. So it's kind of trying to guide you to one of the conversion or bidding strategies that it has. But that's why you're watching this video, so that you can jump right there and actually do the best thing based on what you know, based on how your conversions are set up, instead of relying on the, campaign setup wizard to pick it for you. Okay, so click that button there, select a bid strategy directly, and that'll let you follow along with the screens you're about to see. Okay, so the very first Google bid strategy we're going to look at is target CPA. It stands for target cost per acquisition, or you might hear it as cost per action. It does not stand for certified public accountant. So horrible attempt at a joke. All right, so target cost per acquisition basically lets you pick any one of those conversion actions that you've set, that you said matters to your business, whether or not it's filling out a form that gives you their email, or making a purchase on an e-commerce store, or calling a phone number. That's a conversion. And when that happens, that counts as an acquisition or an action. Target CPA is going to attempt to get those actions to happen at a specific price point. So in the example on the right, there's a target CPA set at $48.02. That means I'm asking Google to get me as many conversion actions that they can at an average price of $48.02. Now, this strategy does not care how valuable that conversion action is to me. So $48.02, if I'm selling something that costs $300, well, that's great because I spend about $50 and I make $300. What's that? 6x my return. That's pretty good. If I have the conversions or asking for getting an email or a webinar sign up, that might not work out very well because $48 for a webinar sign up or an email pays me nothing at first. I better have something really valuable at the other end of that webinar to make up for that cost of just getting the lead into this. So it really depends on what your business goals are here, and it has to make sense for you. It's good for steps that are non-monetary steps where you might not know. So you could say, hey, I'm willing to spend $1.50 per email, and maybe it's a qualified email for your industry, so it makes sense. Or you could say, this is valuable because just about all of our conversions, the conversion value is nearly identical. I sell widgets that go from $90 to $115, so roughly $105 on average. So if I get them at $50 per purchase, that's great. I don't have to worry too much about the value because I know it's going to be more than the value is going to be more than the cost if Google's able to succeed in getting me that target CPA. This strategy does require you to set up that conversion action. So you have to set it up either you can upload it offline, you can have it be a pixel, you can even set it up to be a phone call into a special phone number. But it is required that you go into your site or you log the clicks and you determine which clicks from these Google ads turn into conversions and report it back for this strategy to work. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. Target ROAS. So not to spoil the ending, but this one so far is my favorite. It ultimately represents a business goal. ROAS stands for return on ad spend. If I spend $1 with Google, I want to get $1.50 back. I want to get some amount of return for the money I'm spending. In this case here, there's a target ROAS of 130%, which means that I want to spend $1 and get $1.30 back, or 30% above what I put into it in this case. This strategy is ideal for steps that do generate actual revenue, because you actually, in those conversions, you have to report back a dollar amount. So if I sell widgets that are both worth $5 and $105, depending on which ones you pick, Target CPA wouldn't know the difference or care the difference between I sold a $105 widget or a $5 widget, and it would probably find a way to sell a lot more of the $5 widgets. And if your target CPA is $20, you're going to lose money every single time. With target ROAS, it doesn't matter because you're telling Google, I want to make 130% on the money I give you. Sometimes you're going to get a $105 transaction. Sometimes you just get a $5 transaction. And you can report to Google exactly the dollar amount that this action is worth to you. And then Google can take that into consideration and say, well, okay, so people who look like this tend to buy the $5 items, and people who look like that tend to buy the $105 items. So I'm going to try to get the $105 shoppers as efficiently as possible because that's really helpful. Or if I see someone who's only worth, I expect to be worth only $5, I'll have to get them for really cheap. Otherwise, it won't be worth it. It is important to know that 100% equals a break even. So if you put 100%, you're not going to double your money. Google's going to return to you exactly what you put in. This could be helpful for things that are potential loss leaders. You can even go less than 100%. You can say, I want 50% return on my spend, which means you spend $1 and you get 50 cents back, but maybe you also get a customer and you know your economics so well that you know that your lifetime value for that customer is not worth 50 cents. It's worth 50 cents on the first purchase, and then another $1 later and another $1 later. Maybe it's a recurring revenue thing, and then they unsubscribe after 18 months or something. So if you know that your business's economics are such that you can acquire a customer at a loss on the front end, but then make up for it on the back end, you can actually ask Google to give you a customer, and that's your conversion action is, I sold them my loss leader at a loss, and now you have a customer who might return to you and be worth more in the long run. Okay, target ROAS does also require the conversion action and a conversion value to be reported. You can set this up with pixels, or you can set it up to be an offline import item where you report the click ID when it happened and other stuff. A lot of shopping carts have integrations for this so that you can actually do the thing, or you'll need to talk to someone, a coder or a programmer, to set this up for you. Next strategy here is maximize clicks. It's pretty straightforward. It's going to try to maximize your clicks. Google does not need a conversion action to understand what maximize clicks gets. This is good for getting a ton of traffic. This is good for if you want to spend your money. Let's say you have you're not sure what bid to put. You're just not getting your campaigns to spend anything. You're probably getting outbid. But if you tell Google, yeah, just get me the most clicks for this thing, it will find a way to spend your money. In fact, a friend of mine he was trying to spend grant money. And so in a sense to him, it was free, but he just couldn't figure out how to get the campaigns to spend their money. I said, well, do you have certain business goals set up here? Like, oh, no, not really. We want to get people to read this content, and then maybe this will happen, maybe that will happen, but we haven't really set up any conversions. And so I pointed them towards maximize clicks. I said, if you go this way, Google will just find a way to get you traffic. And I called him up a few days later and he said, oh yeah, it's spending its budget, no problem now. So that is something that can happen, but it's also a dangerous thing if you're not, if you are a lot more price sensitive and you want to make sure you get a return on this. There is an option here where you can enable a enhanced CPC on it. You see that little help increase conversions with enhanced CPC. Enhanced CPC lets Google actually adjust the bids up and down based on whether or not it thinks it's going to be a conversion. It basically layers maximized conversions over this maximized clicks strategy. That one does require a conversion action to be set up. So if your conversion is getting people to fill out their email, you can actually, and you want to spend a ton of money to just get a whole bunch of emails, and you want to send traffic to an article, a piece of content, which then maybe at the bottom or somewhere down the middle pops up a little email capture field. You could use this strategy and then attach the conversion of email input and say, okay, Google, get me as many clicks as possible to this piece of content that I've created. And then also adjust the bidding up and down to try to get that conversion of someone fills out their email on this article because I've set it up as a conversion action. So there is a way to make this work. It's just a riskier way. I might go straight for, well, just here's the conversion, Google, get me all the conversions, maximize conversions here. But it is another way to go about getting that. And I may have jumped the guns here, because maximize conversions is next. This is another money is no object automated bidding strategy. You do have to have conversions, obviously, if you want to maximize them. So you do have to have that set up. And again, the big gotcha with the conversions is that it will get any conversions included in the conversions column. And it will basically use your entire campaign's budget to do as much as it can. So if you have a budget that's a lot higher than you normally expect to spend, because Google doesn't usually spend all of your budget, prepare to be surprised because it will start to spend your budget here. Let's try to figure this out. But again, if money is no object, or if you just want to get everything you can, or if you have a really tight rein on your budget, you can enable maximize conversions and just go for it. Okay, so now we're going to get into some that are a little bit more exotic. Target search page location. So you remember when we looked at the sort of the anatomy of a search engine results page, you had those 4 ads at the top, and then you had 3 more ads at the bottom with this example. This lets you target, do I want to be at the top? So you have top of page, or you have anywhere on the first page as a set of potential results. With first page could mean those 3 way at the bottom. So if you enable anywhere on the first page, know that you could be in position 1 or you can be in position 7 and it still counts. This is good for awareness because you're just trying to show up on the first page or at the top. You don't really care about who you're showing up for, which means that Google might show the ad to the wrong person. So for this one, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have pretty tight keyword coverage. So you know that if someone searches this keyword, or if your keyword triggers for a search, then this is exactly what you want. So you might want to use like exact match or broad match modified to be careful about getting the right people, getting in front of the right people with this one. And then again, it's just looking at the market itself. Is it competitive? And if it's competitive and you want to be on the first page, Google doesn't care about how competitive it is. It's just going to go for it. There is a secret option for this if you use portfolio strategies, and we're going to get into the portfolio strategies a little bit later. But the secret option here is you can actually, with the portfolio strategy, target position 1, not just top of page, but actual position 1. So that can be really expensive, but if you just want to be at the top of every search page that you have keywords for, this is probably one of the best ways to go about it. All right, this is another exotic one, target outranking share. So this one is, it's kind of petty. It's funny in a way, but basically if you have a pretty close competitor and you just want to beat them, you put in their domain and you say, hey, this domain, I want to outrank them a certain percentage of the time. And you can say, this is the maximum I'm willing to bid to do that. And this is the percentage of time that I want to beat them, and go to town, see if you can beat it. So it's kind of tricky. So you have to pick right at the top here, you have to pick the domain name that you want to outrank. So you put in the domain name of your competitor. I believe you can only pick one domain name for this strategy. So if you have multiple domains of competitors you want to beat, you're going to need multiple campaigns to do that. So a little bit of duplication. Then you have target to outrank, and it has a little percentage sign there. That means that you want to show up above them. If you put 25, that's 25% of the time. So 1 in 4 times you want to beat them in the search results. This does not guarantee that you're going to do that, but this is the optimization goal that you're going for. This one does not require a conversion action because the conversion is, am I above or below that outranking share percentage? And then finally, you can set a maximum bid limit because if you know it's a competitive industry, let's say you're a law firm and you're targeting terms specific to legal help, you can get $20 plus clicks easily in certain terms. So you can see it going wrong really quickly. So you can say, all right, don't spend more than $15 for a click here, Google, just because it could run away from you if you're not careful. Oh, and I forgot to mention, target search page location also does not require a conversion action to be uploaded because its success metric, the thing Google's optimizing for, is the actual page location. It knows if it's on the first page or if it's in position 1 or if it's in the top of the page. All right, enhanced CPC. We're almost done with all of them here. Basically, it takes your manual CPC bids and at first it moves them up or down 30% to try to get clicks that were likely to lead to a conversion. So again, it's kind of like the maximize conversions layered over manual CPC. But Now, the way it works is that Google basically takes the CPC that you put in and tries to get that CPC on average over, say, a rolling 30-day period. So it's not bound by 30% above or below your required or your selected CPC. Let's say you're bidding $5 for a click manually and you enable this enhanced CPC option. Google can decide to spend $5 for a click, $1 for a click, $20 for a click, if it thinks that that's going to help you get a conversion out of it. But what it will also do is say, given all of that, we're going to try to average to $5 a click for you. This is something that is also a little bit of a gotcha, because before, if you put $5 a click as your CPC, you were bidding up to $5 a click and less if the auction was cheaper. But if you're bidding with eCPC, Google can bid 20 and maybe it only has to pay 17 and it gets in position 1 for you. But you're bidding way over your $5 limit. And you might find that on a $5 manual CPC, you average to $3.50. On this one, you're probably going to average closer to the CPC that you set at $5. Just something to keep in mind for it. And again, it does require a conversion action be uploaded so that Google knows what types of searchers are likely to be more likely to convert for you. All right, target impression share. So impression share, if you remember, is basically the amount of times you show up for all of these searches that you could have shown up for, so long as you had a keyword that qualified and you were in the ballpark. We've seen impression share numbers that are kind of iffy. The best we can guess is that there's more impressions available if we bid up, but we could have a higher impression share than actual because our bids are so low. Like, yeah, you showing up for all the bids or all the auctions you qualify for. Anyways, this lets you target a specific impression share percentage. This is the only strategy that lets you target position 1 on in any type of strategy. So with search page location, funny enough, you actually can't target position 1, but with impression share, you can. So you can target anywhere on the page, on the top of the page, or in position 1. And that happens right here. Where do you want your ads to appear? Those are the options available to you. And the interesting thing about it is when you fill out this percentage here, target percent impression share to get, that's for the location you select. So if you say position 1 and you say 50% here, that means your target, your objective is to show up in position 1 50% of the time, not to get an overall impression share of 50%. If you said the last option, or I guess it'd be the first option in that list, anywhere on the page, that's basically regular impression share. But now you're being even more selective to say, I want impression share 100% of the top or of position 1. Again, this one also does not require an actual conversion action because the objective and the optimization target is that percentage, impression share percentage of the specified results area. Okay, and the last one is manual CPC, which most of you should be pretty familiar with. It's just the most basic way to set it up. You put in your bid, your CPC bid. Google will take that into consideration and bid up to that, and then see how everyone else bids in the market, in the auction, and rank you accordingly. And of course, there's quality score and other factors that can come into play here. You can take a manual CPC strategy and check that increased conversions with enhanced CPC. It basically is the same as starting with enhanced CPC. There's just a different way to go about it. And you also have slightly different portfolio options around those as well. With manual CPC, you can also do a lot of modifiers. You can say, all right, if it's a phone, go up 30%. If it's midnight, go down 50%. If someone is physically close to the location, we can bid up. If they're far away, bid down. And again, these don't require conversion action, so they're very simple to set up, very easy. With all the modifiers that you can use, those are all of the things that Google in any of these other strategies already takes into consideration for you. So you don't have to go in and set up all the different things about, well, a desktop is worth a little bit more than a phone search or phone click to me, so I'll bid up or down. How much should I bid up and down? Google will take all those into consideration and the intersection of those. So it's a phone and it's 6 a.m., I'm going to bid up, but it's a desktop and it's midnight, I'm going to bid down. Google can do all of that for you. It has a lot more control than we do. So it's something to keep in mind. All right, so while we were looking at all the bid strategies from before, you probably saw something about the portfolio strategies, and I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Portfolio strategies are a way that you can set bids and or bid strategies across multiple campaigns all at once. This is helpful for aggregating data across campaigns that are too small to use an automated strategy. You might find that when you first start out, you're not able to enable, that's a fun thing to say, but you aren't, it's true, you're not able to enable a lot of smart strategies until they've received enough conversion data, because that's the thing, Google lives and breathes data. The AI needs it in order to succeed. Portfolio strategies are a nice way to lasso a whole bunch of campaigns together to give it the data it needs. So if you have 3 campaigns, but none of them by themselves are big enough to get enough data for the machine to work, you can use a portfolio strategy and get all of them to work. The downside is that the portfolio strategy requires that the values you set and the bid strategy itself are identical for everything. So if I use target CPA and I want a $30 conversion action, well, I have to use target CPA for everything in that strategy, and I have to do a $30 conversion action for everything in that strategy. So keep that in mind, but portfolio strategies, I recommend them. One last thing is they also enable additional features, some things that you cannot get access to unless you go the portfolio bid strategy route. So even if you have a campaign by itself, let's say target CPA, you're setting up a new campaign, you see target CPA as an option and you go for it. There are some options that you still won't be able to use unless you use a portfolio strategy of target CPA, even with just the one campaign in it. I'll go into what those additional abilities are as we go through each of the portfolio strategies available. So if you're wondering about where those portfolio strategies are, if you go into your Google Ads account and you click Tools, and then you see the left bid strategies right there, that's where you can go and see them. So they are considered portfolio bid strategies, but they're just labeled as bid strategies in Google's UI. Okay, so target CPA on the left is what you have. And then if you click that advanced options, you get a lot more here. So I have still an actual target CPA dollar amount. You can see that right here. That's just like the standard target CPA bid strategy. But by clicking this advanced button, this now becomes available to me. I can tell Google how much I want them to bid at the most or at the least in every auction they participate in. So if I left these blank, Google could just go to town and bid way too much. Now, eventually it should learn about achieving a specific desired target CPA, but let's say I can't afford it. Let's say I don't want it to go too crazy. I can tell it, okay, Google, try to get this target CPA, but don't ever bid more than $20 for an auction, because I know that it's just not worth it at $20 plus. Same thing with the minimum limit. you might find that Google backs out of a lot of auctions because it says, okay, I don't think I can achieve your target CPA here. And so now you see a lot of search volume and search click volume decreasing. You can say, Google, I want you to achieve this target CPA, but no matter what, don't ever bid less than $5 for a click here. And that way you can keep your search activity up. Your clicks will keep coming in. I don't recommend setting a minimum limit because Google could know like this auction is just not worth participating in and will try its best to not put you there. But if you go stubbornly into it and say, I still want to be there, you might end up paying for a click you don't really want or getting a worse click-through rate, even if it's, that's a big one. You can get a worse click-through rate because you're showing up for an irrelevant auction. And even if you're not clicked, lowering your click-through rate is one of those things that factors into the quality score, which means that all of the other clicks are going to be more expensive for you, even in the auctions where you are relevant. Target ROAS gives you the exact same advanced options. You can set a maximum and minimum bid limit. With target ROAS, it might be valuable to set it during a learning phase because it can bid up very aggressively for even a couple of weeks, and you might find that you're not profitable during those weeks. So you can try to limit the damage by setting a bid limit. But ultimately, with target ROAS, I'm happy to let Google do its thing. If it hits the number I set, it's winning. I don't need to put training wheels on or bumpers for it. Just go for it. You might find that it needs to bid up too high to try to get some of these, but all in, Google knows what it's doing and it's going to hit your goals. So as much as possible, just let it go and do its thing. But if you do want to put the bumpers or training wheels on it during the learning phase, you can do that. Maximize clicks. This one's kind of interesting. This is the only one where portfolio strategies actually reduce one of the options you have. You trade options really. So with maximize clicks, you lose the enhanced CPC option, but you get a couple of interesting things here. You can set a bid limit, just like target CPA and target ROAS, and you can set a target spend per day. One thing about target spend per day is that it will respect the campaign budget over time. So if you have a campaign budget of no more than $100 per day, then on average, it's going to spend no more than $100 per day, but it will, across the entire portfolio, attempt to spend whatever you set here per day, assuming that it has, within its campaigns, the ability to do that. So it's still a little fuzzy because Google can, on a day by day, decide to spend more than your campaign daily budget is. That's another change Google made. It said on average we'll hit your daily budget, but if you set $100 a day, over 30 days you won't spend more than $3,000, but you might spend $500 on one day and then $100 or $50 the next day or $20 the third day to make it average out to that $100 per day. It is kind of tricky because you have both campaign budgets and a target spend per day, and you just have to consider that a campaign budget is specific to the campaign, but the target spend per day is specific to the overall portfolio strategy. So the strategy will spend, let's say, $500 per day, and you have 10 campaigns in there. Each one has a $100 limit on it. Well, the strategy will attempt to spend that $500 per day using those campaigns, but it won't spend it all on one campaign because that has a separate budget attached to it. So here's one that's not available as a portfolio strategy: maximize conversions. Those have to be done per campaign. They're just unique one-off things. If you want to maximize conversions and you can't and you want to try to lasso them as a portfolio, you could go a couple of ways. You could say a target CPA and put the CPA really, really high. So the way Google works is it tries to get that target CPA and and it will try to get the cheaper ones first if they're available, and then it will get the more and more expensive ones all the way up till your limit, and it might go a little bit above it if it's gotten a bunch of cheaper ones. So it's kind of, well, let's say, maybe here's an example. If there are 10 people in the market and it can get half of them for $5 and half of them for $15, and you set a target CPA of $10, it will try to get those $5 people first. Then it will start getting the $15 people because it sees that it's below average after it's gotten those first 5, until it goes up to that $10 average. So you will have some that are $15 CPAs, but on average you'll end up at $10. Now, if I said, Google, get me $1,000 CPA, just target CPA, just go for it. It'll go for it until it can't find any more. It's basically the same thing as choosing maximize conversions. And again, the sky's the limit. Money's no object. You got to be careful with this, but that's how I would attempt to use a portfolio strategy to achieve something like maximize conversions. Okay, target search page location. So this one gives you a lot more options when you click advanced options. So I split it into 2 screens. You have the same thing as before, top of the first results page or anywhere on the first results page. So again, those top 4 or anywhere first page all the way down to the very last link before you click to the second page is what you're going for here. But you can now also have the option of bid automation, which lets Google set its own bids, or you set your own bids, and then Google will adjust them as necessary. Basically, Google is controlling your bids for the most part because they can adjust them up to try to get the top of page bid. But at least this way, you will have recorded the CPCs that you want. And if you want to set them higher, you can. All right, moving on to the second half. You click that advanced button. Now you get a bid adjustment. The top of page bid, you can increase or decrease it by a certain percentage. So you can say, Google, try to get me to the top of the page, but then also decrease it by 25% because I don't want to be in position 1. I want to be in position 2 or 3. You have that option. Then you can also set an upper limit and say, do that, and also don't ever spend more than $15 for a click because I know that beyond $15, the economics, the math just doesn't work out for me. You can set that option here. 2 more options down at the bottom, limited budgets and low quality keywords. The effect is similar here. Basically, you can have Google not adjust the bids for keywords or for campaigns. So in this case, for campaigns that are limited by budget. And that's obviously what Google recommends. It just means that the campaign is running out of money. So if it increases its bids, it's going to run out of money a little bit faster. So it's going to try not to do that. Low quality keywords. This one I definitely recommend doing what Google recommends here. Don't raise bids on keywords with low quality score. These are keywords that you're going to spend a ton of money to try to be high up on the page because you're getting penalized with a low quality score. Basically, Google's going to take your money for that click and it's basically subsidizing the better competitors in the market with your more expensive clicks. So in this case, I would say if you have low quality score keywords, don't try to raise them. Let Google not bid up on those because they're going to be really expensive, and you're just going to lose money for no reason. All right, target outranking share. This is another one with quite a few new options here. So you still have the domain name you want to outrank. You have the target outranking percentage. I want to be above this domain 50% of the time. You can even say 100% of the time. That could get expensive really quick, but it's possible. And you can tell Google, and don't ever spend more than $20 trying to do this per click. You also have, similar to target search page location, certain bid automation things. You can set your own bids and then let Google adjust them as needed to meet the target, or let Google just manage the bids from the beginning. And then just like before, you also have the low quality keywords option to say, don't raise bids on keywords with a low quality score. This again is an option to save money on places where you're really paying a premium to show up. So if you're bidding on a competitor's keyword, maybe that's going to be a low quality score keyword just because I'm looking for competitor X and you are not that. You're trying to show up for me and that's not the experience I want. No one clicks on it. Your competitor is bidding on their own terms. It's going to be expensive. If you want to outrank them in this case, it's going to be a bloodbath. You're going to spend a lot of money to try to do this. But if you want to do that, if you really just want to show up above your competitor for their search terms, or just for terms that you have a low quality score you're not as relevant in, you can do that, but it's going to be at your own peril. It's going to be expensive, but you have that option right here by using the portfolio strategy. All right, target impression share. This one is not available as a portfolio bid strategy. If you wanted to use something like it, I'd probably put it on the search page location. And if I move back up, oh yeah, there it is. I'd say anywhere on the first results page or top of the first results page, if you really wanted to be up high. But generally, this is something you don't need a portfolio strategy, and Google hasn't unlocked any special features or functions with the portfolio strategy for target impression share. So you could just set it at the campaign level. If you wanted to set it for multiple campaigns, you could. If you wanted to use a portfolio strategy to do something like that, then I would say that search page location is your best bet. Enhanced CPC doesn't really give you anything extra. You can just more easily loop a bunch of campaigns in there. And manual CPC also not available as a portfolio bid strategy. You just have to set the bids all manually. But you'd have to do that anyways if it was somehow tagged in a portfolio strategy because you set the CPCs per keyword. Okay, so to wrap up, one, set up your conversion actions if you haven't already. You really want to do this, talk to your web guy, talk to your developer, your coder, programmer, whoever you need to. You can go to Google Tag Manager and set it up that way if you haven't. There's a lot of ways to do that. Give me a call, give me an email. My email's on my website if you want that, and I will be happy to talk you through that and get you set up. Use the right bid strategy for your business. What are your goals? Figure out what you want to do. Map out the strategies that make sense. Map out the customer journey and set up the conversions, and then consider what are the economics of that journey and what you can afford to pay and where you want to bid a lot and where you want to bid a little. It's really worth it to take the time to sit down and figure these things out. Use a portfolio bid strategy to unlock advanced features. You can do a lot more. You can set bid limits or set other features. And then finally, just know no two searchers are alike, and that's why you want to use AI. And Google takes in all these signals that it would take way too much manpower to do on your own as a marketer. Hand the reins over to Google. Trust them. I've seen it work. I know it works. We use it in business, and we've gotten great results. Get clever with it. You have to think about it. You have to try and spin your wheels a little bit, but it's totally worth it. All right, that's it. Take care. I've got one last little thing. There's the email if you wanted to reach out. You had a question about one of these, or maybe Google's changed something and you want to send me an email saying, hey, idiot, it's changed. There I am, Danny@DannyOK.com. Also, I'll ask that you like my Facebook page. There it is. If I had an email list to subscribe to, I'd ask you to do that. If I do, it'll show up on my website. Check it out. If not, that's it. All good. Okay, guys, thanks so much. Take care. Again, I'm super happy to look at your bid strategies, look at your Google Ads account, and understand your business and give you a quick free consult on how you would want to strategize your conversions and what the customer journey looks like. Super happy to jump on a call and help out. And with that, I'll let you go. Take care.